Hello everyone, my name is Scott Wilhite. Let's make a video. This is a YouTube channel for watch the first video and you'll figure it out. I was a victim of some hate crime rapes in 2006 by a perpetrator named Dusty Miller at the time, and Dusty Broadfoot now, and Dusty Coursey when I first met her. She has a daughter named Reagan Coursey now, who is a social media influencer with 4 million followers. This is not a drama channel, but it is a channel about bringing awareness to rape myth acceptance. Again, watch previous videos. I'm not going to go into detail here. This is a back to the basics video I'm making. I'm uploading, well, I already uploaded a video that's going live this morning at 8 o'clock. I don't know the date, but it covers a couple of adjacent characters that along the way, that I met along the way back in 2007 and 8, after I discovered I had been a victim, and when I tried to report it, that just got in the way of justice. And I will, it's not lost on me that I'm a male, and that the perpetrator is a female, and I'm straight. And at the time when this happened, I was 40, 41, 42 years old. And that now in 2025, 75% of the country still doesn't believe that a male can be, at 40 years old, can be a victim of a female perpetrator of rape. Rape is not sex. 75% of the country still don't believe it. That's what I'm trying to overcome. Now, back to the basics is the theme of this video, and I'm going to try and keep it very short. If you've watched the other videos, then you know there were some crazy freak-offs that went on in Rockwall back in 2004, 5, 6, where Dusty Broadfoot, who got away with it, was having freak-offs with minors in her house in Rockwall, Texas for those 3 years. In those, or 3 or 4 years, I can only prove 9 times in 2006. She told me about her and her ex-husband having these orgies in their garage before I moved in. She told me that too late, and she didn't fully put it into context when she told me. But on May 21st, 2006, that was a big night. I have video of every night I was raped. And rape myth acceptance is what I was talking about regarding the 75% just don't believe it. 50% tell you they don't believe it outright. The other 50% say that they do believe a male can be raped by a female. This is basically the liberal bloc, of which I am part of. But once you ask them the same question a couple of different ways, you weed them down. About half of the liberals who say, yeah, a male can be raped by a female. A 40-year-old male can be raped by a female, because the number changes by age and circumstances. But the liberals, when you ask them, all of them will say, oh yeah, it can happen. You ask them 2 or 3 questions, the same question 2 or 3 different ways, and you figure out, oh no, they're not. They don't believe it can happen. I'm going to fix that. Or I'm going to try. But here's the deal. I really was a victim, and it really was traumatic. And now I'm 59. I turned 60 in a few weeks. So it's been a little while. But the perpetrator, Dusty Broadfoot, for real got away with it, in large part because of these idiot ancillary people along the way who are part of the 75% anyway. So they're just idiots. Everyday normal idiots. And that's what a couple of the last videos were about. This one is about, who are we talking about? And in other videos, previous videos, I have compared Dusty to Patrick Bateman. And how I do that is how Dusty was the kingpin conspirator. She's the top of the conspiracy food chain in terms of sociopathy and evil and that. I mean, she's inviting high school kids into her house. Hell, she killed the fucking family dog a month and a half before I moved in. She killed the dog in January 2005. I moved in February 17th, 2006. And in order for her to be able to sneak high school kids into the house and kind of punk me out doing gay-looking things so they could record it with the video camera, here's Dusty holding that camera. Yeah, so she could record me with that camera. The high school kids had another camera. But the way she was able to sneak them in at least 9 times that were recorded, that I have the videos of, in 2006, was she had to plan ahead. So she had the dog, family dog, euthanized. Some pit type dog. I never saw it, but I know her kids, Reagan, Coursey, and Preston, knew the dog, knew about the dog. They talked about it. They were sad that she killed the dog. Okay, so the dog's gone, dead. I move in. February 17th at 4 a.m. was the last. I drove in the driveway with the last load and moved into her house in Rockwall from Dallas. 40 hours later, we have our own kind of freaky sex on her bed, which was just me and her, I thought. And it's crystal clear that that's the case in these videos. But 40 hours after when I say 40 hours, I mean I moved in at 4 a.m. on February 17th, which was a Friday morning. Friday morning at 4 a.m. I moved in. Saturday night about 2 a.m., 1 or 2 a.m. So a day and a half later, 2 days later, we're doing that on the bed. And a high school student takes the camcorder off the tripod in the hallway. Here's the floor plan. You see that green bed? Well, that green bed is against the wrong wall. It should be against the back of the house wall. There's a long story behind that. Dusty wanted me to move that bed to that wall for a couple of reasons, like how she wanted to kill the dog a month and a half before I moved in. About 3 months after I moved in, she had me move the bed over to the other wall, to that wall in the floor plan. This is all part of her being able to sneak high school kids in and watch. But anyway, there's down that hall that leads up to that bedroom on February 19th at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. One of the high school students takes a camcorder off the tripod and follows us around for about 45 minutes, I think, on that video. The whole time. If we move to that side of the bed, he moves the camera. Okay, so May 21st, this is back to basics. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Rockwall Patrick Bateman, notwithstanding the murders. She's that sociopathic. 4:05 a.m. Here's an example. Okay, so that is Dusty on the bed in that same bedroom, although this is May, so it's before I moved the bed to the other wall. The bed is still where it should be. That's my dog walking in. It should be against that wall because these rooms are so small, it doesn't make sense. Look at the floor plan again. You see the angled wall that sticks out right beside the left side of the bed? Okay, you can't put a bed, an end table or a, what do you call it, nightstand beside the bed because of that angled wall that sticks out right there. The bed butts right up against that angle. So you can't put a nightstand. And she had 2 nightstands. And so the bed only functionally worked against the back wall. She moves the bed that way. So because, maybe because May 21st, she got caught. Or a couple of different reasons. One, the windows on one night after May 21st, there's something that happens from outside. She would open the windows and something happened. I'm not going to give that away. She'll have to tell that to the district attorney in Rockwall if and when she ever confesses, because she's got to prove this stuff up. But so I'm withholding some of the details that I've never shared. Okay, that's one reason. But the other reason is, if you notice, she's on the bed and she does this, right? Okay, well, I'm right on top of the camcorder that's on a tripod. In fact, I'm taking it off the tripod myself to take it back to the bed. And this is all on video. Here's the screenshot of me. Okay, you see how I'm right there It's just my eye, I think. I don't have much room here, but it's just me. I'm just taking one little screenshot of me so I look the least embarrassing in that situation. I don't give a fuck what she looks like. This is not revenge porn. That she's in the middle of committing first-degree aggravated rape. If you need help understanding this to move the story forward, just assume I'm a female and she's a male. And there's a male sitting on that bed, and he's invited some of his high school buddies, and they're bullies. and they got some girl there who will do anything. You know, you can pee on her. You can do things to her in unnatural orifices, and record her, and mock her. That's okay. I'm sorry, I'm a guy. But that's the scene. So, you see where I'm beside the camera. And I only took one frame out of that. It's only about 90 seconds in this. It's within 3 minutes of this one file name. And the DOJ has this. The FBI has this evidence. It's this. VTS underscore 01 underscore 1 dot AVI. So it's within the first 3 minutes of that, and within about 30 seconds, 90 seconds of that, I walk up from the bed and get off the bed, walk up, and I'm at the camera, I'm taking off the tripod, and the high school kids are about 6-7 feet to my right, if that, down that hall. Here's the floor plan again. Again, the bed's in the wrong spot in the floor plan, assuming the bed's on the back wall. And you see where that little TV looking thing is kind of at an angle on what's supposed to be a dresser in the room? Well, that's where I was. I was right there. The tripod is right in front of that TV. I'm fiddling with it. That's me looking at the lens of the camcorder, just a frame of it. And Dusty's doing this. And I don't catch that for several months after I found the first evidence of her having people over. But what she's doing is she's flipping off the people that are in the hall, the 2 or 3 that are already there. She calls somebody else after she sends me to the store to get cigarettes about 45 minutes later, and they come over too. Okay, so you kind of get the scene, back to basics. Well, she's not flipping me off because I'm looking at the camera. I'm not looking at her. I mean, I've joked around. The FBI interviewed her about this about a year after that too. About 2 years after that. She told the FBI that she didn't like me. I wasn't attractive to her, and she was not. There was no stimulation in the sex. This is not a Penthouse Forums or a Harold Robbins novel. This is a real life lived experience that resulted in years of trauma. I still have trauma. I still get triggered over the things I shouldn't be triggered over. I'm a straight male. After all these things happen, there's no intimate partner relationship. I tried twice, it didn't work. That's how traumatic it is. Not kidding. So Dusty Broadfoot's the one who did it. 9 times, motivated by hate. They just found a gimp, a stupid gimp, punk, me. And she invited those kids over, recorded me doing those things. So that's her flipping off those kids. Okay, now, so that's the scene. Let's go to 4:07 a.m., 2 minutes after that. This. Okay, so that is, I'm on the bed, I'm blurred out. I've set the camera on the tripod. And so 4:05, I'm actually putting the camera back on the tripod because I've had it with me. And in fact, that may have been when I first set it up to record at 4:01 or something. So 4:05, actually, it's been closer to 4:05 because she immediately flips off the kids. And then, of course, I pulled a frame out where you see my eye. That's me with hair. Sorry, I'm old now. And then 2 minutes later, this. So she looks down the hall. Of course, I'm grayed out beside her and blurred out beside her. And then you would notice this if you only saw that. And again, you saw the floor plan. There's the dark hallway is right there beside where the camcorder is. She's not looking at the camcorder. She's looking down the hall. We both looked down the hall intently for about 5 minutes there at between 4 and 4:10 a.m. But she knows that somebody's there at that moment, and I don't. And I'm looking, but I can't see into the dark hall. There's a doorway right here, and there is a light right here that I'm using for this camera. There's a door frame. I can't see into that door because the lights are off, one, and this light is obstructing my view. So I can't see, but I can hear what's going on down there. Well, Dusty can too, at the same time. But so half the time she really is looking down the hall, but she also is doing this, the side eye, looking at me, looking down the hall. And so that's her looking down the hall, and then she kind of moves, comes back into this little circle of reality, knowing that those high school kids are there. And she points at her leg, her thigh. Watch. If I say in a void, my use of in a void or in a vacuum may be a crutch at this point, but that's just the best way to describe this. In a vacuum or in a void, a girl doing that. If you only know that, well, you've seen her flipping those people off. So there's that. And if you watched any of my other videos, then you've heard at least what I'm talking about. But her pointing down at her thigh right there, that's intentional. That's with intent. She's telling them to do something. Now, I'm going to admit, I don't know exactly what she's telling them to do at 4:07 a.m. on May 21st, 2006. But I know she did the exact same thing on July 1st, 2006. Instead of pointing that deliberately at herself, I told you, Patrick Bateman. Instead of deliberately pointing at her thigh, on July 1st, everything I say has video. On July 1st, the bed is, I've already moved the bed to the other wall, which at the time, it's just puzzling to me why she wants to do it, but I've moved it. So the bed's there. And she's still on that side of the bed, only rotated 45 degrees, 90 degrees. And she's on her knees. And she's here's the floor plan. She's on her knees on that green bed, facing kind of squared up with that angled wall. And she's tooled up. And I'm laying on my back, close probably to the middle of the bed with my head at the headboard. And by this time, she's introduced blindfolds into the night. So I'm blindfolded for a few minutes on July 1st. And there's more from May 21st I'm going to get back to. But to explain the pointing. So on July, and I've never shared this. Not in 2007, not in 2008, not now. Dusty knows she did it. She probably doesn't know that I know. I'll explain that too. July 1st, there's that. She's fully equipped, we'll say. And she's squared up, so she's kind of at the head of the bed close to me. I'm laying down on my back with a blindfold. We're doing things that a couple, assumingly consensual couple would do, you know. If they're not high school kids there, there's no rape. But she gets the blindfold on me within 2 minutes. She looks out. She leans back into her left, down the hall and puts her hand towards the door and points right here. I'm blindfolded. There's audio with the video. There's nothing she's saying or that I'm saying. I don't say, Dusty, can you point to where I am? Because I'm lost. No, that didn't happen. She doesn't say anything that requires a visual guide that winds up in a him. I'm about to do this to him. Look, come look. And what she does at that point, what she says, the implied everything about it explains using signals, hand gestures. Come look what I'm about to do to him. Of course, I don't know they're there. She's communicating with them, and they have to hide. So keep that in mind. And as I said, she's tooled up. So what happens next? Meets first degree aggravated rape. Any orifice. Now, I'm going to be honest, that one might not meet aggravated because on July 1st, I can't prove there's a weapon there. So hold that thought. But it's probably second degree aggravated rape. Second degree rape involving minors motivated by hate. If there was a weapon there and I just didn't know, then it's aggravated. First degree, and the statute of limitations never runs out. So, yeah, it's kind of fun to talk about Dora Limpicina and Lane Aiken. Kind of fun to talk about dirty motherfuckers Judge David Rakow and Brett Hall and aloof, dumb Michael Goodman. Well, this is the predicate thing. I really don't care about them. They're kind of fun to tell, to use as a utility. And if they don't... David Rakow knew Dusty personally. And if I were a detective, if somebody's personal friends with Dusty and I cared about upholding the laws in Texas, Rakow would be one of the people I talked to. I mean, that's just a matter of simple logic. I'm not a smart man. I do have a master's in political science, and I got it since then so I could brag about it in moments like this when I decided to tell the story again. I know how the government's supposed to work. I'm not a lawyer, but I know a lot about law. But I know enough to be stupid enough to get beat by technicality in certain circumstances. But forget that shit. I'm well educated, and I know how it's supposed to work. And the fact that I'm a male should not preclude me from the same justice and due process and rights as a female would. I'm a feminist too. So don't get that wrong. This is not a men's right. I'm a snowflake liberal feminist. This is men's rights. This is people along the way that I've talked about, Lane Aiken, all those people. They either didn't know how sociopathically dangerous Dusty Renee Broadfoot was and is, and they just were kind of everyday hop along dirty people, dishonest people, or they knew and they were involved, and it's worse. I don't care. But Dusty was also friends with the elected district attorney in Rockwall in 2006. Very good friends. She worked for him in 96, 97 when she was a junior and senior in high school. And she's the type of girl to fuck a 40-year-old district attorney who thought his pants needed 3 legs because his dick was so big. So that's how she got away with it. At least part of the way was those kind of relationships. Okay, so July 1st she does that. That's just one night of 9 where first degree sexual assault is met. Bias motivated. And there's video of it. Dusty just punked out the wrong punk. You can call me punk. You can call me gimp. You can call me victim. I understand that lingo between, or the compare. I understand the victim and survivor type of approach and language. Hey, I'm a straight, now 59-year-old male from Texas who was raped 9 times as a result of hate in 2006. And this is what a 59-year-old straight male victim of rape motivated by hate sounds like in 2025. She raped the wrong motherfucker. That's what I'm saying. Because I'm not going to shut up about it forever. I'm telling my story. And hopefully anybody who's decides to listen says, oh, well, yeah, shit, I need to look around, make sure that I'm fully informed before I consent with who I'm going to have sex with next. So hopefully I prevent one rape from happening. Hopefully somebody Googles the term rape myth acceptance, reads the wiki page on it if there is one. Awareness. But I'm also a victim. So I'm going to tell the story. Dusty Broadfoot is the perpetrator. So that happened July 1st. First degree aggravated rape. Sexual assault is how the Texas Penal Code calls it. Still rape. You know what statutory rape is? Rape. Ludwig Wittgenstein is an early 20th century philosopher with whom I exactly identify with. He had no patience for people who didn't understand the language. Wittgenstein was notorious for writing a Tractatus Logico-Philosophus academic paper on how to perfect the language, not just the English language. He wrote it in German. But I kind of identify with him, if not wholly identify with him, because I do get frustrated that just because I'm a male should not preclude the fact that Dusty Renee Broadfoot belongs on the National Sex Registry database. This is a fact, incontrovertibly so. Proven by videotape evidence. So, did her relationship with Galen Ray Sumrow and Lane Aiken and all those idiots, is that what prevented her from being investigated and tried and convicted? Maybe. But right now in 2025, 75% of the United States doesn't believe that me, a male, can be raped by her, a female, right now. So is that what it was? Oh, Carl Lasserbrook's another idiot from Rockwall who got in the way. Some of them probably falls into that 75% RMA, rape myth acceptance, bigotry category. It's intolerance is what it is. Bias. But she for real knew Galen Ray Sumrow and told me that every time she walked in that Rockwall County Courthouse, he'd jump out of his chair and walk running out and hug her because he loved her, according to her. May 21st. She flips off the kids down the hall. And she's a serial rapist. So this is serial rape motivated by hate. So when I say I get frustrated and I'm a Wittgensteinian, I only discovered Wittgenstein my last year and a half of grad school. I was like, how could I have missed this genius? You know, he's perfecting. He's putting exact precision on words. Cut the shit. This is what this means. And if you can't say what a thing means, don't say it. That was his sort of parting shot. That which cannot be said should not be said. So I may be a reincarnation of him. I understand. I'm telling the world, Dusty Broadfoot is a deviant sexual predator. And that she would be probably, she may be getting out now. Hell, Galen Ray Sumrow got out after 15, 16, 17 months. after being sentenced to 17 years in 2007 or 8. This is the elected district attorney who Dusty was friends with. He got investigated, tried, and convicted of a crime himself just a year or two after all this happened. After he ignored me, he gets popped, sentenced to 17 years, goes to prison, and his buddy, Greg Abbott, lets him out after about 15 months. Says, well, Sumrow's he's been teaching here at the prison, and he's kind of earned his way to be released. He was like an unofficial pardon. That's how these three-legged, well, Abbott's not really three-legged. Fuck Abbott. This is how these corrupt motherfuckers operate. I don't say this in a void. I'm a political scientist from Texas, educated in 2 very conservative Texas universities. 3, really. I've got 3 degrees. Graduated high honors. May 21st. Back to May 21st. So 4:05, she flips off the kids. You see me, you know, she's not flipping me off. She never would flip me off like that. You know, there's people that have normal relationships where you just flip your friend off in jest, where nobody can see, right? You're in a party or something, you see, maybe you're in a normal relationship, and your wife or your husband's at the other end of the room, and you're both in boring relationships. You catch each other's eye, and you kind of, you give a look of disgust because you want to just leave or whatever. Or it's your best friend or whatever, right? Well, that's what Dusty's doing. She's flipping off her little high school friends. Oh, and that night, she tools up too. So, okay, so a couple other things happen. About 10 minutes later, I get back up to go get the camcorder. I've talked about this in another video. This part I have shared. And one of them, well, first, I'm fiddling with the camcorder again, trying to get it off the tripod. And those kids are still right in the fucking hallway, 6 feet away. There's more than one. And Dusty does this. She's not a communist. She hates black people. So she's not a Black Panther. She's telling high school kids to don't come any further. Because they were probably, well, they were pushing the envelope, obviously. This is actus reus, first degree, aggravated sexual assault on this night. No kidding. Incontrovertibly. No kidding. And I'll give anybody $250,000 if you can tell me one of those high school kids' full names. I've got their first names. Or 3 of them anyway. So it's got a job. And they've got to be willing to be a victim and testify. Because I'm not doing anything illegal. And I don't want to do anything illegal. But Dusty raped the wrong dude. Dude. I showed her that movie in 2005. She fell asleep during it. That was the biggest red flag of everything. She fell asleep during The Big Lebowski. That's like a hard no for a liberal. She crossed the line. Mark it. So, about 10 minutes after that, where she's looking at me, looking down the hall, I go up and I start to get the camcorder off the tripod. She does this. They don't really respect that, I guess, because they did come in, and a gun goes right in front of the camera lens in one of their hands. So you see about that much of the hand, and about that much of the hand, and it's in the trigger guard on the trigger, and you see this side of the fingers. One of my title cards has the image on it. And although the title card is not just crystal clear, you don't see the outline of a pistol. But when you watch the video, you see it. I mean, as I said, I'm not doing anything illegal, and I'm trying not to do anything illegal. So even though what she's doing is rape, and it wouldn't qualify as revenge porn, because I'm this is like a not sophisticated. It's like a amateur to catch a predator. But I only care about justice for me, what I was victim of. It just so happens that she had been fucking high school students for 3 years. Orgies in the garage with her ex-husband first, and then punking me out for the year 2006. So I'm using them to bring awareness to rape, male rape, to get justice for me, and to put Dusty on the National Sex Registry list. To warn the world she's a deviant sexual predator. So immediately following that, like 20 seconds after the gun goes behind my bed, remember this, back to the basics. What are we talking about? We're talking about, as I've said in other videos, she's worse than Dr. Larry Nassar, who raped over 500 of his patients through deception. But his wasn't hate motivated and he didn't use a gun. They brandished a weapon on 2 nights. One was May 21st. And they were doing it so they could make fun of what she was doing to me. That's why she's pointing at me. Come look at what I'm about to do to this Faggot. And she was serious. She's serious. Nassar didn't do that. He didn't hate. He didn't do what he did out of hate for his victims. P. Diddy didn't do that. Didn't have his freak offs because he hated the people who came over and he engaged in those acts with. Dusty did, and had a weapon and drugs, all kinds of drugs for her: meth, GHB, cocaine, MDMA. Oh, let me back up. At 4:07, when right after she points at her leg, I didn't clip this out. She looks down the hall and she does now she doesn't put her hand to her mouth, but it's the most distinctive, she's looking at them and she sticks her tongue like she makes the motion to the high school student. I mean, it's just clear, it's distinct, it's blatant. Now, the fact, about 30 minutes later, she sends me to the convenience store to get her cigarettes at 5 a.m. in the morning. And she intentionally leaves the camcorder on while I'm gone. And 5 minutes after I walk out the door, camcorder rolling, she leans forward and gives a few of them oral sex. Probably means that when she's doing when I'm not looking and she's looking down the hall and grinning like Patrick Bateman does in the mirror when he's pointing at the mirror at himself as a congratulatory, "Hey, buddy, good job." That's Dusty Broadfoot. I'm not kidding. Wittgenstein is my hero. I'm not parsing words. These are not out of context. And she did that to the wrong person. Here I am. So she does that with her tongue. Then, as I said, 20 or so minutes later, the gun. Then about 30 seconds after the gun, and she realizes maybe she can't tame them. Who knows? She tricks me into going into the bathroom. And so I grab the camcorder. I'm still at the camcorder. That's how soon it was after the gun. I grab the camcorder. She goes, I got to go to the bathroom. And she walks into the bathroom. Here's the floor plan. She's on the bed. Bed is against the back wall, not the side wall. She gets off the bed, swings her legs off, walks into the bathroom. She knows I'm going to follow her. So she's leading me away from the high school students who have the gun. On, what night was it? In July, not July 1st, the gun is pointed at the back of my head. So it was just waved behind my head. Slowly lowered to the back of my head. So they get too close for Dusty's comfort, I guess, and she says, I need to go to the bathroom. And I follow her into the bathroom. And she's sitting on the toilet. She's telling me about her pretend pee fetish because she's trying to talk me into letting her pee on me. I declined. But this came up in the P. Diddy trial too, where his live-in girlfriend, I can't remember her name now, said that she was forced to either pee on a girl or a girl pee in her mouth. So Dusty was a little more clever. P. Diddy probably outright articulated what he wanted, and he probably, because he really wanted it and that would turn him on in the moment, even if it was transactional. I'm not saying that P. Diddy had a pee fetish, but Dusty is telling me she has a pee fetish, so she can try to get me to let her pee on me while she's, of course, recording and the high school students are watching. And technically, that's lower on the list of criminal actus reus acts, which is double negative. Well, it's technically, if she had talked me into that and she recorded herself peeing on me, and even if I had consented in the moment, I'm not consenting if there's strangers watching and she's recording to show strangers. By the way, there's 2 camcorders every night. But if it's just me and her, and she talks me into it and I do it, that's not rape. I can't walk away from that and say I didn't consent. So don't get confused on that point either. I don't know if I have to explain that. Keep up. Baby tomato. Catch up. So she's... it's peeing on me would be second on the list. Rape? Hate motivated? Because that pee would be hate motivated rape. Peeing on me. But it's not penetration. Well, it would involve minors, but it's not the full Monty sexual assault. Brandishing a weapon. That occurs. The one that's above the peeing on me. But anyway, she's sitting on the toilet and she tells me about the pee fetish. And then she goes on and she tells me about how she wants to have sex with every one of the husbands that she knows the husband and wife of, specifically in their bed, by name, while the wife is not there. And how she wants to have affairs with men like that who pick her up from work during the day, and this is on video. The names are too. I'm sparing those people. One of them lived right across the street. And her fantasy telling, she's trying out some Harold Robbins stuff. Talking about her fantasy. Pretend or not. The P was probably pretend. Fake. Her wanting to have sex with all her friends and former in-laws' husbands was probably real. But she's still telling it in a moment where it could be taken as kind of, bedroom talk. Alpha Girl. Patrick Bateman stories. How he wants to do the Patrick Bateman stuff. Not including the murder. Just do that level of sociopathy. Because she's proud of what she's doing every night. Including October 28th. Where it's just chillingly for hate. And exactly meets first-degree sexual assault in Texas. Specifically for first-degree sexual assault in Texas. After she's moved out, but talked me into staying around that weekend so she can come over and do that with someone, high school friends. That night, I can only prove there's one on October 28th. But I can prove that she we'd broken up a week earlier. She'd moved out with the kids. I'm there alone. I'm looking for an apartment. I'm about to move out. She says, why don't you stay around one weekend? Let's make it big. And so she made it big, all right. She came over herself. She brought a high school student over there were 2 camcorders, and it's full first degree sexual assault, motivated by hate. Meets that threshold. That's who we're talking about. So, yeah, when she was doing that with her tongue, it was because she really wanted to give them oral sex, and she just a few minutes later gave them oral sex on camera. So yeah, the Lane Aiken stuff, Dora Limpsina, Ray Cal, FBI, it's fun. And quite frankly, if none of that stuff had happened, well, first, if, I can't say what I would do if I had only found the videos in the way I did. I'd probably still be, if justice hadn't happened back then, I'd still be doing this because this is therapeutic for me. And hopefully it prevents a rape. Nobody else is doing this. No other male that I've found. There's no other book on the subject. I wrote a memoir in 2020. I decided to wait so I could try this out first. But if I had not crossed paths with so many ordinarily dirty, the banality of corruption, if I had not crossed paths with that, which is kind of the second rape that female victims talk about when they report their crimes to the law, to the police. Trauma doesn't discriminate. Discrimination only gets worse for men. And so there's all that. But there's some bizarre things that went along. Because I wasn't stupid then. Even though I knew Ray Cal was doing dirty shit while he was doing it, I didn't actually technically know he was conflicted until 12 months into whatever happened. But even with Carl Asselbrook, the chief of police of Rockwall, Texas, I knew what he was doing was dirty and wasn't right. I'm a Wittgensteinian. If you tell me it's against the law for a female to rape me, and a female's raped me, I'm going to tell the police. And if the police don't believe me, well, they've got a monopoly on violence. Look it up. They don't have a monopoly on information or the truth. Actually, that's carved out in the First Amendment of the Constitution of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution of the United States of America. So I'm only doing something wrong against a right, which would be a right to, not privacy, but a civil right that Dusty would have if I was lying. But I'm not lying. This is why she hadn't sued me. I am a thorn in her side and will be for the rest of her life, or my life. I'm older than her. And I've thought about that. Thought about the dilemma she's in. Because in a sense, if law enforcement in 2007 had investigated her and really investigated her and said, oh yeah, there's somebody there. Oh yeah, all those elements are met. And then came to me and said, respectfully, and I tell stories and I tell about how I don't just go to instant snark. I was not raised in a barn. All my family are college educated. They're either lawyers or teachers. Never been in trouble. We give to charity. We do right. I cuss a lot, but I don't care. I like cussing. Makes me feel better. So if law enforcement had have investigated her back then, just Rockwall, not even the Department of Justice, and came back to me and said, Scott, you're going to feel a sting, but we just don't think we could get a conviction from a jury. Not because of what she did, because that's clear. But too many people just don't believe that a male can be a victim of a female rape. And that's just how it is. Well, they didn't. They kind of mocked me too. That's okay. I don't care about dirty motherfuckers in law enforcement or prosecutors or AUSAs or I don't care about Bob Mueller. Go watch my Trump pardon request. Nothing about what she did was funny, and it did traumatize me. And I still get triggered over things I shouldn't get triggered over. But she did it, and she did it to the wrong person. I'm her worst nightmare, legally. Because just because she's not on the National Sex Registry doesn't mean she doesn't belong there. Even if, hypothetically, thought experiment, even if they weren't high school students, she'd be on the next National Sex Registry list. But they were high school students. I saw one of them. He knocked on my door. Hell, I chased him out. So we're in the bathroom. I keep forgetting. We're in the bathroom. She's sitting on the toilet telling me about how she wants to pee on me and how she wants to fuck everybody's husband in the wife's bed. And a couple of them run into something or themselves and they fall down. A huge crash happens at the front of the house. It's on video. And I'm holding the camcorder. And I said, wow, what was that? This close to the microphone. And Dusty immediately says, you didn't hear anything. And I immediately swing my right arm around, because I'm holding the camcorder with my right arm. I swing it around, and I'm going to the door, which is to my right, bathroom door. I run out the bathroom door, and the camcorder's recording all this. It's recorded. Doesn't make sense if I just clip that out and I show the camcorder jostling around a bunch. But when you watch it, you see it's kind of chilling. In fact, one thing I learned in grad school was that among the personality traits of humans, there's fight or flight, and of course there's liberal and conservative. Liberals are fight, conservatives are flight. There's science that the data is empirical, and it keeps kind of being reproven over and over again. It was first identified in the 60s. I can't remember which study it was. And then in 2013, 14, 15, there was a big study over it, and it reaffirmed. There were other studies in the meantime, but liberals are fine. So when I thought about this back in 2007 or 8, when I remembered the crash and running, chasing kids out of the house while all this shit's going on, right? I know the camera has no way to respond to these stories that I'm telling. And I keep thinking, how does the person that's listening to this react? Do they just think, you're a dude, it doesn't matter? Whatever the case. So when I recalled hearing it and running out of the bathroom, even before I saw it on the video. I see it on the video, and I thought, yeah, there's that. And then after a week or two, or maybe a month, after getting myself away from the sting of, holy fuck, that's what that was. It was a high school kid in the house watching her do these things to me. After you get kind of past that, you think, wait, I instinctually ran towards danger in the moment. Well, a conservative won't do that. I proved I was a liberal right then and there. I said that in another video, but I cut out the part that explains it. So there's that. Okay, that's the back to the basics. That's who we're dealing with. I don't take lightly calling her a deviant sexual predator. I don't take lightly proclaiming that she would be on the National Sex Offenders List registry. But if I may have gotten off on a tangent. If she were investigated back in 2007 and 8 and they did that to me, I don't know that I would, I probably wouldn't do that now. That's probably would not do this now. But it puts Dusty in an awkward position too, which I couldn't give a rat's ass about. Sorry, not sorry. She should have fucking raped me. But it does put her in an interesting paradox, interesting dilemma. I've got an education and we think about these things. Political science is a lot of philosophy and political theory, and you read a lot of philosophers. And I would lie if I didn't think about what that type of situation, you learn a lot of game theory in political science, lots. I don't care about game theory. I don't care about international relations or foreign policy. I'm a domestic policy guy, and that's kind of the lowest on the pole of importance as far as political scientists, but that's me. So I know that if that had happened, it may have shut me up now. But what I'm saying is the truth, and it's not illegal, and it's not to ruin her life, but it is therapeutic that I'm saying it. And she does have a daughter who's got 4 million followers. So whoopsie. But assume you're someone like Dusty Miller, a perpetrator, and if you've got to assume that it's a male, just assume some random male was Dusty and I'm a female, and everything happened, but I'm a female and Dusty is a male. That's her real name, by the way, Dusty, not stage name, although it's her stage name too, I guess, for life. But let's say it's a male, and everything else is the same. And the female now, 20 years after it happened, started a YouTube page and is telling their story. Just like Chanel Miller in her memoir, Know My Name. Everybody should read that book. I could cry right now. Chanel Miller was raped. And traditionally, female victims, male victims even, of abuse, any kind of a domestic abuse or sexual assault like that, never, they're always Jane Doe, often, when the police actually do something. And they did there. It was in Stanford. It was on Stanford campus in California. And she was raped once by a Stanford student. And she decided to come out with her name, publicize, go public with her name. Her memoir was Know My Name. I cried like a little baby the entire time I read it back in 16 or 17 before I read my book. I read it again right before I wrote it. And I don't remember if I cried then, but I was trying to figure out how to tell my story. It's impossible. I'm a guy, but it's still illegal. And just because I'm a guy doesn't make her any less of a predator. So, know her name. So, Godspeed, Chanel Miller. Good for you. She's my hero. And Wittgenstein. And I don't care if you know my name or not. But you should know Dusty Broadfoot's name. Because she's a million times worse than the guy who raped Chanel Miller. Or Larry Nassar. Or Sean Combs. Dusty Broadfoot is. And if you know any of the high school students' names, full names, and they're willing to testify, $250,000. Me offering a reward is not new either. I offered $25,000 in 2007. I put it in a trust account, the cash, and scanned the bank record or screenshotted. I can't remember. Back then I probably scanned it, added it to a Word doc or a PDF, faxed it to the Rockwall County Police Department, addressed to Lieutenant Carl Ossobrook. He'll remember. I'm hard to forget. It's not that if I don't get my way, I'm going to scream. It's like if I get raped 9 times by somebody like that that's bias motivated, I'm going to be a loud motherfucker forever. So I scanned it, faxed him the proof that I had the $25,000 and asked for his help in just even if I could add his name to a press release or a statement offering $25,000. He ignored it. So fuck the Rockwall police. I can't say that about, is it Kendra Culpepper, the current district attorney there? I don't know her from Adam. I don't know anything about her. So don't take anything I'm saying as being against her. Don't take anything I'm saying as being anti-government or anti-police. I want perfect police more than Socrates. Hopefully nobody's going to understand that, but I want perfect police. I want dirty police out of police because they're giving police a bad name. 77 million people voting for Trump and nullifying 93 felonies is sort of a referendum on fuck the police. Fuck the criminal justice system because we don't trust them. That's what that says. Well, I knew that in 2007. Doesn't mean that every police officer is bad, but it means, in my case, every one that I went to was bad. Every one. Some are worse than others. Some are just normal, Let me explain something else. You go to Walmart after you bought something, you need to go to the customer service desk to return something, and they don't return it, and you feel like you got shafted. Okay, it's a bad day. You stew about it a little bit or not. I mean, depending on who you are. But that's really not a bad day. You go to the police for something as important as due process or just your basic liberty, your freedom. And they respond the same way a customer service person does, who doesn't know you from Adam, but you have bad experience at both customer service at Walmart and then law enforcement for the United States of America. Those two are not the same. And tens of millions of people in this country of 340 million don't quite understand how bad it is in the criminal justice system. So a big reason why I'm still screaming about all this has a lot to do with how rank the criminal justice system was then and now. Dusty's carrying that burden. She probably wished she was investigated. That's what I'm getting at. Because it's, instead of telling me, look, we get it, and we've got resources for you. I mean, I tried calling RAIN, the rape. I always forget what the A is. Rape. The rape crisis, national rape crisis place in 2007. I called August 2007, right after I'd left Brett Hall's courtroom. They said, sorry, we don't help men. I called the Dallas Rape Crisis Center. Sorry, we don't help men. And after I complained, okay, we'll help you, but you've got to come into the office. And you've got to be in the same waiting room with other women who have been raped by by men. Almost. I mean, there's no question. You think those women wanted that? This is how stupid we are as a country, as a society. And it's not just the United States. It's worse in other countries. Other developing countries. Britain. The UK may have cleaned up their act recently. But yeah, Dusty probably wishes she was investigated because it would kind of be behind her. But it'll never be behind her. I'm just the wrong guy to rape. And a lot of people are watching. It shows, let me rephrase that. I heard about 100, I've had a channel for about 5 weeks, I think. And of the 5 weeks, there's been about 200 hours of people watch time. And I really, really, really appreciate that. I've only got 17 subscribers, and thank you for being a subscriber. Please share and hit the like button, whatever that means. I'll never ask for money. In fact, I'm trying to give away money. But I appreciate all the. I guess my point to that is I know that there's sort of a niche group of people who are paying attention. Some out of the spectacle of it all, maybe because they loosely know me or Dusty or in one of those circles. That's fine. But I know Dusty's has watched at least because she and her social media influencer daughter Reagan, who I raised, helped for a year because I lived with him. Her and Reagan made a video saying mean things about me. It's not true. In fact, I was going to make a video with more evidence of me not being mean to Reagan. One of the things I left out in that video about Reagan was not only did Dusty lock Reagan out of her bedroom for the whole year, and it got worse towards the end because Dusty's addicted to meth. She was then, and other drugs. Addicted to meth for sure. But even on the weeknights, no kidding, Dusty would go out. She's not a TV watcher to begin with. She didn't care about movies at the theater or watching. We watched 3 movies one night or 1 week. The Ring trilogy, and me and Reagan and Preston and Dusty all watched it from the master bedroom. And it was a cool movie, a really cool movie. That's the only movie she would watch. Hell, she fell asleep during the fucking Lebowski. But she wasn't a TV watcher either. So, normal people come home and we'd watch TV shows. She would go to the back porch, shut the door in the dark, almost every night, and talk for at least an hour on the phone after it would get dark and before the kids would go to bed. And I'm the one who's bathing them and getting them dressed for bed, getting them in their bed every night. She neglected and ignored them. Preston was old enough to where it wasn't I didn't know what life was like before she kicked Tony, his dad, out. But, Preston was just 9, 10 years old. He's kind of developed enough to where he's not like a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old like Reagan, who's just traumatized that she can't get in her mom's bedroom. Well, not only did we should do that, not only would Dusty lock her out of the bedroom, she'd go out on the back porch and have conversations with who knows who every night. 5 nights a week, 4 nights a week. Long conversations, abnormal, inappropriately long for the circumstances. Because one night I tried to listen to her because it was that bad. And I'll fill in a little context for that later. She signed a contract before I moved in. She may have forgotten about that. Contact on a piece of paper. Signed her name. I wrote out the contract. You'll see it. So I knew before I even moved in that there was a strong likelihood she was going to be the girlfriend from fucking hell, even if she didn't rape me. And I had a lot on the line because my ex-wife was tampering with visitation of my kids and I couldn't risk that, not seeing my girls. So I wrote up a contract, said, look, you've got some evidence of being a girlfriend from hell, and I need you to promise that you're not going to be the girlfriend from hell. She signed it. I love you. Dusty, Renee, Coursey, Wilhite. February 4th, 2006. So there's no evidence of what she and Reagan have said. I don't really care. The only thing I would care about is Dusty outright denying that she raped me. That's a lawsuit because it's defamation. And I haven't looked to see if she has. I have a feeling she has. The email to notify me if she has is justice for victims of Dusty at gmail.com. It's justice for, the word for, victims of Dusty, D-U-S-T-Y, at gmail.com. If someone can, whether you clip it or send me to the exact spot, I'd really rather clip it because I just don't want to go out on the internet looking for anything Dusty related. But if someone can prove to me that Dusty defamed me by saying that I'm lying, that may be reward worthy. Even if you weren't there that night. Because me suing her for defamation, just like E. Jean Carroll sued Donald Trump and won because he said she was lying, that's justice. Or it may be. But it's enough to probably receive the reward. Now, I'm not doing anything illegal. I don't care about money. I'm not offering anybody any money to do anything illegal. Dusty committed a bunch of very, very serious crimes. It's on video. It would be better if one of the high school students, if I had them and their testimony and their willingness to testify. But if I have to sue her in civil court for defamation and say, I don't have my iPad, but take my iPad in the deposition room and say, Miss Broadfoot, explain who you're having oral sex with right here. That's one way, because she has to admit it. That's why she won't sue me, because she knows the deposition will be nightmare. Within 5 seconds of her being deposed, it's over. Court reporter swears him in. I don't even need an attorney. Miss Broadfoot, who are you giving oral sex to? Miss Broadfoot, who said they were going? Who says this? Who are you talking to that says so we can murder him? Him. So we can murder him. Actually, they said you, so we can murder you. Who? Play. Okay. Who said that? Miss Broadfoot. Just that alone proves rape. Because I would not consent to anybody being in there. Not only do you, and you don't have to take my word for it. I hear them on May 21st and chase them out of the fucking house. They have guns on 2 nights. Why do they need a gun? If that's one of the things Dusty said back then. She said both that I wanted that and that nobody was there. And she said both those things to the FBI. And they wrote it into 302. And I've got the 302. DOJ or FBI should too. Still. They might not still have the electronic evidence of the videos, but they probably still have a copy of the 302. Another dumb FBI agent writes this down. I don't think he understands he writes down both things. But you watch the video, it's like, yeah, there's no fucking way he knows anybody's there. And that's what Dusty won't face. So it would be nice if current law enforcement, somebody cared about, look, think about all the teachers who are arrested now. I mean, I know cops like fame and glory and get their names in the papers and, so-and-so did this. Fuck, say it's David Rakow or Asselbrook if he's still alive and well. Or I think one of the FBI agents retired. Who else is there? My sheriff. I've known my sheriff for 45 years. It didn't happen in my county, but I don't know. Hell, Sumbro. I'm dragging his name through the mud. I don't know if he's alive or not. Maybe he knew. He may want $250,000. He could tip me off. What my point is, it's 20 years later. Surely somebody understands that just the fact he's a man shouldn't preclude him. Look, Dusty's a danger. She needs to face justice. And that's how I'm trying to frame this. She really did do these things. She really should face a jury. And she should face justice.